Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything that once defined you, your name, career, family, possessions, has been erased. You're not a person anymore, just a number stitched on a striped uniform. That was Viktor Frankl's reality. Before the war, Frankl was a psychiatrist from Vienna, deeply fascinated by how people found purpose in their lives. But in 1942, the Nazis deported him, along with his wife and parents, to concentration camps. The next 3 years would strip him of everything but his mind, and that, ironically, became his survival tool. In the camps, Frankl observed how some prisoners, despite unimaginable suffering, still managed to hold on to hope. Others, stronger, healthier even, gave up and died. He began asking a dangerous question. Why do some survive when everything is taken away, and others don't? Every day in Auschwitz or Dachau meant cold, hunger, humiliation, and constant threat of death. The prisoners marched through snow with torn shoes, fought over crumbs of bread, and watched friends collapse beside them. Frankl wrote that the best of us did not return, yet he also noticed something extraordinary, that even in this hell, a person could still choose how to face their suffering. He described moments of quiet humanity, a man sharing his last piece of bread, a prisoner whispering to another about his dream of seeing his child again. Frankl realized, in a place where no freedom existed externally, the last freedom left was the freedom to choose one's attitude. That realization became the seed of his life's work. While his body was imprisoned, his mind stayed free, analyzing, observing, turning pain into insight. He wasn't trying to escape reality, he was trying to understand it. And what he found was this: suffering, when given meaning, is bearable. Meaning turns chaos into purpose. By the time Frankl was liberated in 1945, his parents, brother, and pregnant wife were dead. He had lost everything except the philosophy he had discovered inside the camps, that life is never meaningless, even in suffering. He returned to Vienna and wrote Man's Search for Meaning in just 9 days. The book became a map for anyone facing despair, showing that meaning can exist even in the darkest human experience. The search for meaning. To understand Frankl's psychology, you have to first see what he rejected. Freud said, life is driven by the will to pleasure. Adler said it's driven by the will to power. Frankl disagreed with both. He argued that the real human drive is the will to meaning, the deep desire to find purpose in one's existence. He called his approach logotherapy, from the Greek word logos, meaning reason or meaning. Logotherapy focuses on the future, on what a person still has to live for, rather than the past that broke them. It asks not, what do I expect from life, but what does life expect from me? In the camps, Frankl tested this theory in real time. He saw that prisoners who still had a why, a reason to live, were far more likely to survive. For one, it was the dream of finishing a book. For another, it was the hope of seeing family again. For Frankl himself, it was the vision of standing before his students again, teaching what he had learned from suffering. He wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." It wasn't just philosophy, it was survival strategy. Logotherapy rests on 3 key ideas. 1, life has meaning under all circumstances, even suffering. Meaning isn't destroyed by pain, it's revealed through it. You can lose everything, yet still find purpose in how you respond. 2, our main motivation is the will to meaning. People can live without comfort, even without hope for pleasure, but not without purpose. When life feels empty, people drift into what Frankl called the existential vacuum, that numb feeling of aimlessness that drives so much modern anxiety. 3, we always have freedom to find meaning. Even when you can't change your situation, you can change your attitude toward it. That's the essence of human dignity. Frankl divided meaning into 3 paths: through work, creating or achieving something; through love, caring for someone or something beyond yourself; through suffering, facing unavoidable pain with courage. That last one is the hardest to grasp. Frankl never romanticized suffering. He didn't say suffering itself is meaningful. But if suffering is unavoidable, we can still choose to respond to it with integrity, compassion, or courage. And that choice gives it meaning. He told his patients that meaning isn't something you invent. It's something you discover. Life keeps asking questions. We answer not with words, but with how we live. Lessons for modern life. Here's where Frankl's ideas hit home for us, decades later, in a world full of comfort, yet plagued by emptiness. We live in an age where external freedom is abundant, but inner freedom feels scarce. People can change jobs, countries, identities, yet many still feel lost. Frankl would call this existential frustration, the anxiety that comes from not knowing why we're doing what we do. He observed that when people can't find meaning, they often chase substitutes: pleasure, power, status, distraction. Sound familiar? Scroll culture, constant comparison, endless dopamine loops, all ways to fill the void where purpose should be. Frankl predicted this. He said modern people risk becoming existentially vacuumed, busy, connected, yet fundamentally hollow. His cure wasn't therapy in the usual sense, it was responsibility. He believed meaning arises when we stop asking what we want from life and start asking what life wants from us. That's a radical shift. It means even small acts can carry purpose. Doing your job well, caring for a friend, facing illness with grace, choosing kindness when bitterness would be easier. Meaning isn't found in comfort, it's found in commitment. Let's break down a few key lessons Frankl leaves us with. 1. Suffering is not the enemy. Meaninglessness is. Pain by itself is neutral. It becomes destructive only when it seems pointless. But when we give pain a purpose, it transforms. Think of athletes pushing through exhaustion or parents sacrificing for their children. The struggle gains value because it serves something greater. Frankl said, "In some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning." This isn't toxic positivity, it's existential realism. You don't have to love your suffering, just learn from it. 2. Freedom is an inner decision. The world can take almost everything from you, job, reputation, health, but not the freedom to choose your response. That's the essence of responsibility. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space lies your power. Today, we're conditioned to react instantly, to outrage, to stress, to comparison. Frankl's message is a reminder. Real freedom begins in that pause. When you stop reacting and start responding, you reclaim control. 3. Meaning can be found in love. In the camp, Frankl often imagined his wife's face. He didn't know if she was alive, but he realized her love gave him strength regardless. Love goes beyond the physical person of the beloved, he wrote. It finds its deepest meaning in their spiritual being. Love for Frankl wasn't possession, it was presence, the kind that anchors you even in absence. When you love someone or something deeply, it pulls you beyond yourself. That's where meaning often hides. 4. Happiness is a side effect, not a goal. Frankl argued that chasing happiness directly never works. Happiness ensues, he said, when you live meaningfully, when you dedicate yourself to something greater than yourself. If you aim for pleasure, you end up empty. If you aim for purpose, pleasure often follows. 5. Life asks the questions. We provide the answers. One of Frankl's core metaphors is that life is like a test, but we are not the examiners. We're the ones being examined. Life keeps asking, who will you be now? How will you respond? Every day gives us small chances to answer. in patience, in integrity, in perseverance. And that's where meaning is forged, not in abstract philosophy, but in lived choice. 6. Despair equals suffering minus meaning. If you can add meaning back into your suffering, despair dissolves, not instantly, but steadily. That's the math of resilience. Section 4. Modern relevance and closing reflection. So how does all this translate to the modern world, where our suffering often looks like burnout, loneliness, or quiet dissatisfaction rather than starvation or imprisonment? Frankl's insight still holds. Pain is pain. Meaning is the antidote. A student drowning in exams, a creator lost in algorithm fatigue, a worker stuck in a job that feels pointless. The pattern's the same. The how feels unbearable because the why has gone missing. Once we reconnect to why we're doing something, even a small why, the weight changes. That's why Frankl's ideas feel strangely futuristic. He was diagnosing not just the trauma of war, but the emptiness of comfort. He foresaw that people would have all the tools to live easily, yet no clear sense of why to live at all. Logotherapy is not about analyzing your childhood or fixing your emotions. It's about orienting yourself toward meaning, toward purpose. The technique can be summarized like this. Focus on what life demands of you now. Don't chase happiness. Serve meaning. When suffering can't be avoided, treat it as a teacher, not an enemy. Frankl practiced this even after the war. When his life's work was criticized or when he faced loss again, he reminded himself that meaning doesn't vanish when circumstances change. It evolves. He taught that meaning is discovered, not designed. It reveals itself through our response to life's challenges. There's a quiet heroism in that idea. It tells us you don't need grand gestures to live meaningfully. You just need awareness, the courage to take responsibility for your attitude, your work, your love. Frankl's message can be condensed into one line. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. That's not surrender, it's transformation. And it applies everywhere, from relationships to careers to moments of loss. The real battlefield is always internal. When people read Man's Search for Meaning today, they're not just reading a survivor's story, they're encountering a mirror. Frankl holds up the same question to every reader. What gives your life meaning right now? Not tomorrow, not after success, now. The book ends without fanfare. Frankl doesn't promise enlightenment or perfect peace. He simply insists that no life is ever meaningless, that even in the face of suffering, we retain the power to choose how we live, love, and endure. In an age where attention is currency and distraction is everywhere, that idea lands like a quiet rebellion. Because meaning doesn't require perfect circumstances, only presence. You can be in pain and still live with purpose. You can fail and still live with dignity. You can lose almost everything and still hold on to meaning. Frankl proved that by living it. So next time life corners you, instead of asking, why me? Try asking, what is life asking from me right now? That question alone can turn survival into strength and existence into meaning.